Welcome to the Made for Business show where Catholic moms come to learn how to build a business that is simple, holy, and profitable. And today I am joined by one of my clients, Miss Kate Cavanagh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And I love that. Simple, holy, and profitable. I say yes to that, Sterling.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that's very interesting about Kate is that she lives in Ireland. Where in Ireland do you live?
I live just outside Dublin in a little village, and we have spent most of the summer near the beach. Yeah.
Very fun. So I don't know if I ever told you this, but my husband worked at Intel for 5 years, and there is an Intel fab. I don't know if that's the word we use in Ireland. And so I went through a phase where I was like, could we pack up everybody and can we go live in Ireland? And I was feeling adventurous enough to do it. I could tell there were things that were going to be hard, and there'd be a lot of wonky, different things about the housing and all of that. But the reason that I hesitated was I was nervous about having a baby in a whole nother country. Not that I feel like the healthcare system's pretty solid in Ireland, but I was nervous about having a baby. So if you could have talked to me way back then, what would you have told me if I had said, Kate, I'm scared about having a baby in Ireland?
I would have said, well, as long as you have a raincoat and as long as you have loads and loads and loads of clothes for your
Okay.
baby, you're going to be great. We were out blackberry picking this week, and I was blackberry picking in my bare feet in the soft, gentle rain with just really warm kind of day. And it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I was
beautiful.
made for overcast, drizzly weather, right? Redheads were made for that weather. I've always lived in the Pacific Northwest. And so I feel like I could hack it in like Ireland, maybe England. There's just like a small subset of the countries and areas that a redhead could feel comfortable. But Ireland, I think, is definitely one of them.
Yeah, you're definitely coming to visit. And my 1 year old was like practicing her walking in the wet grass with no worries of spiders or snakes or anything, just
That's
walking
really
around.
cool. That's really cool. All right. So today we're going to talk about really intelligent professional women who are ambitious and they go out and they do things in the world and then at some point decide they really want to stay home with their kids and kind of the tension between wanting to really be home with the kids but then also being home with the kids and thinking, oh, I'm kind of losing my mind, or I want something else, or this isn't how I thought it was. And so I really want to talk to you about that today. And so why don't you start by just telling us your story so that people get to know who you are a little bit?
Sure. So I have had several of those deep prayer moments where I've been like, okay, I'm going to change direction here.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't always work out exactly how I thought it might work out.
Mhm.
And the journey has still got a massive amount of beauty in it. So I went to the University of Cambridge to do a natural sciences degree, which I adored. So that was neuroscience and experimental psychology.
Super cool.
That's my major. And then I did a little bit of theology. And then I did some retreat work in a beautiful Catholic retreat house. I worked with Catechesis of the Good Shepherd and Godly Play, which is beautiful methods of working with scripture and children and just breaking open the word in a way that children can understand. And I know you also use Catechesis of the Good Shepherd,
Mhm.
Sterling.
Yeah,
So that
I'm
was
an
kind of,
atrium teacher. I went through the whole program, so I highly recommend it. We're getting our atrium ready right now, and we are opening it up in 2 weeks. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's life changing. Like I believe very strongly in Marian consecration, and then like maybe next sending your kids to the atrium. So if you Google Catechesis of the Good Shepherd or atrium and find one near you, it is just hands down absolutely worth the effort to take your kids because the way that they encounter the Lord in that program is unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere else.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I get to be in the atrium with 3 to 6 year olds in a fortnight's time. So I'm really excited about that. That continues to be a massive part of my life. So the thing is, Sterling, that I met God in all these things. I met God in my degree. I met God as I did some theology and got trained up slowly. And we all know how slowly the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd training course happens. For me, it was once a week,
Mm-hmm.
every summer, every year for like 8 years, 9 years, I think maybe 10 years. And I would go back to this beautiful group of homeschooling families
Yeah.
where I learned Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, but I also learned like I just saw these beautiful Catholic mums minister to their children, and it was beautiful. And I kind of digress. So as I was doing this year after year after year, for 8 years, I was also doing many other things in my other life. I qualified as a solicitor and worked in a law firm.
Mhm.
And I then got so enamored with godly play and Catechesis of the Good Shepherd that I decided to qualify as a Montessori teacher.
Were you
So
still practicing law at the same time as was there overlap there in practicing law and then being a Montessori teacher?
yeah, so what happened? In one sense, it's difficult to remember.
Yeah.
It was such big decisions at the time, but I look back now and I just see the flow of it all.
Mm.
First of all, it was law, then it was theology, then it was, sorry, first of all, it was my degree, which was science. Then
Yeah.
it was a bit of theology, then it was law, then it was retreat house work, and then it was a big decision to actually move country and train as a Montessori directress because I had met my gorgeous future husband,
Yeah.
and I kind of moved back to Ireland at that point. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, these weeks of Catechesis of the Good Shepherd training came every summer with a lot of life changes in between them. So I would just take annual leave from my law firm to
Oh,
go
okay.
on this Catechesis of Good Shepherd training and then just go back and work as, in the law firm. Well, so what I'm trying to say is there was no like order, there was no plan in advance. I look back and I see the flow, but at the time it was kind of like, why am I doing this again? What's happening here? There's that. I just remember standing in the shower and I had been resisting the Lord for a while about my legal career because I wanted to continue. I wanted to become an employment solicitor. I had it all mapped out for myself. My salary was about to increase, because these salaries, they increase yearly. And I was standing in the shower and I was washing my hair. And I remember the exact moment that I just went, fine, Lord, fine. I won't reapply for that big job.
Yeah.
Fine. I'll leave law. If that's what you want, fine. So it wasn't a massively joyful event.
Right.
And yet I see that as a really obedient decision that has grown a lot of fruit and a lot of blessings in my life since then.
Yeah. And that's how I describe the peace of knowing that God has asked you to do something, even if it's, I don't want to say not what you want to do, but it's not sparkly, right? It's just like, all right. And I've had that both starting a new venture that felt scary and not necessarily what I wanted, and closing something where I just felt a quiet knowing, a peace. And the peace feels good because it feels like conviction and certainty. But that doesn't mean it doesn't come with some amount of turmoil or unwinding something or being embarrassed. Like it's embarrassing to say, hey, I did all of this work to be a lawyer and now I'm just not going to be a lawyer, right? But when you have conviction, that's when you feel that Joan of Arc strength to just say, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk away from that. And that's, I had a finance degree and I watched all of my friends go work at Amazon and Costco and Starbucks because I was in Seattle and all those corporations were there. And I left and became a dog trainer. And I went to San Francisco to get certified as a dog trainer and then did that. And I remember just thinking, that looks so dumb. That looks so dumb. But I knew that that's what I should have done. And that really was the second company that I started. So the same thing, I look back and I'm like, oh, I see all the breadcrumbs kind of that led to here. All right. So you had this shower moment. You said, I'm not going to reapply. Then what happened?
And then I just thought, okay, Lord, make this easy for me. And I expected it to be easy. And in one sense, it was very joyful, but there were moments that were definitely not easy. Yeah. So then I left this big job and I worked in this retreat center, this Christian retreat center. I set up a Catechesis of the Good Shepherd atrium. Okay. I worked in Godly Play, which is very similar to Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. There were children coming to the atrium. I knew the families. We started up some family ministry. It was beautiful. It was full of the Holy Spirit and it wasn't easy. Yeah. It wasn't easy. And I remember I was home visiting my parents and my parents were throwing a dinner party and they were like, Kate, will you be around for this dinner party? With all my parents' friends. I was like, nope, no, I'm not. I don't want to have this conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, those are key moments where it's like, even when we're confident about our decision, it's different having to tell 10 people and watch their faces go, oh,
Oh,
just that kind of weird puzzlement. And yeah,
yeah.
I totally get
And
that.
yet these moments are an invitation. I can see now, looking back, that they're an invitation, to go more deeply into prayer, to listen to the Lord like even more intimately and get even deeper rooted in my identity in the
Yeah.
Lord, not my identity in my career, not my identity in my relationships, but actually in the Lord. And actually not accept that facial expression that you've just described as someone going, oh, with the head tilt, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
not accept that as how I see myself, not accept, like that's not how God sees me. That's not how
Yeah.
I choose to see myself. But it takes an awful lot of energy and conviction and prayer to stay in that space. And just because I'm in that space of conviction today or this month doesn't mean that I might kind of flow out of that a little bit next month and need to really have even more prayer to get back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody was just telling me she had a rough week, and it was like back to back things, like getting sick while pregnant, all these things happen. And she begins our coaching session saying, like, I just don't know if I'm cut out for this job, right? Her business. And I know that she is, and walks very closely with the Lord, but I just untangled it. And I said, or you just had a series of really big, scary things, and you're exhausted and pregnant, and maybe that's why just today you're not feeling so certain about it. And by the end, she was like, yeah, you're right, I see. And so I think that's such a good point, that even when we have strong conviction, we might still have days or even weeks of doubt and wavering. And our job is just to keep coming back to that. You know what? He did tell me, I do feel peace about that. It's okay.
Absolutely, it is okay. And I think I looked on that as a failure back then of, oh, I'm not strong enough to go to this dinner party to smile and explain myself. And actually, I'll just go back to myself and say, you're right. Don't go to that dinner party. Take care of yourself, for the evening
Yeah.
and get some prayer. Make sure you're like continue to be deeply rooted and don't expect too much of yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I've been reflecting on that because I feel so, I want to say, mature or solid in my choices now. And I'm not sure if that's just because I'm older, or if it's also because I have these coaching tools, because I really discovered coaching in a big way 2 years ago. And that has given me so much of that language of just, hey, let's take care of yourself. You don't need to go there. We believe this is the right thing. Or do you just get to your 40s and you're also just like care a little bit less about what everybody thinks because you're older, and I don't need to know, but it's some combination of both of those things, I think.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't go to the dinner party, then what? And were you married at this point?
No, no, no. So I was single. I was in my 20s. I was giving up this big salary. I worked at this law firm. I moved into this Christian retreat center,
Okay.
and I worked there for 2 years
Okay.
on a very low salary. And I went to this beautiful prayer group in London because the retreat house was close to London, and there was a lovely prayer group there. I met my future husband there at that prayer group in that time.
That's amazing. Oh, in London.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so you met him, and then what?
Yeah. Well, we'd been going out for 3 months. I knew he was the man for me,
Yeah.
and his job had sent him from Ireland to London, and then
Okay.
his job was about to pull him back to Ireland.
Okay.
His job was pulling him back to Limerick. And he said to me, Kate, I think you should do this Montessori training in Ireland rather than in London.
Yeah.
Because there's a training centre in London and there's a training centre in Dublin, in
Nice.
Ireland. And I was like, wow, because we weren't engaged. I
Right.
knew I liked him. I grew up in Northern Ireland, so going to Dublin wasn't like ridiculous,
Right. It
but
wasn't
it
big.
wasn't like going home. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yes.
So I thought about it and prayed about it and got some advice, and I just thought I'm going to risk here. I'm going to do it, and I'm gonna like make him. I'm going to just check that he really wants me there. Like I
Yeah.
don't need a ring on my finger. I don't need to be engaged. I'm going to a different city than him. He was in Limerick, and I was going to be in Dublin, so it
Okay.
wasn't going to be too intense. Well, I did say, I would be open to moving to Ireland, and I think I would enjoy an official invitation to move.
Nice.
So yeah. My now husband took that to prayer, and then he came back to me and he officially invited me to do my Montessori course in Dublin rather than London. So I did.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
As I hear more and more stories about women meeting their husbands, and I haven't talked about this on this show, but I compiled a book of stories of how women met their husbands. And it is so often I hear the difference in a woman's voice every time. It's like she acted one way, and then for this guy at the end, she kind of just acted a different way. And it was just things like that where you're like, I want him to do this. And then also because now later when we know our husbands and we kind of think they're goobers, I always look back at those moments and I was like, God must have just been with him to give him that courage and to give him that strength, and they show up in a different way too for us when it's really the right one, and we're going to get married. So very cool. Okay, so you moved to Dublin, I assume.
Absolutely. I moved to Dublin, absolutely. I did my Montessori training course there, got engaged to my lovely husband, and then, worked as a Montessori directress, got married, had kids, and I have 3 kids. And now we're homeschooling using that same Montessori kind of curriculum and learning that I did.
Yeah, so cool. Although one thing I love about you, Kate, though, is that you have such a relaxed, if there was such a thing as unschooling and Montessori, I feel like that's like, but people think those things are different. People think, and they're not really, right? Because unschooling is really child-led learning, and so is Montessori. But I think people think unschoolers are like half naked in the woods and they're not doing anything. And that Montessori, a classroom, particularly a Montessori classroom, looks so cultivated and organized. But at the heart, it really is the same thing, which is follow the child and what they're interested in, and then just resource them around that. So what do you think about that?
Oh my goodness, I could talk about this for ages. You're going to have to stop me.
Okay.
Basically, this is how I kind of do everything. I over prepare
Yeah.
and then I give it all to the Lord and try and kind of just forget everything and then just enter and
Yeah.
see what happens
Oh, I love
and
that.
listen and see what happens. It's how I do coaching calls. It's how I do atrium with Catechesis of Good Shepherd and how I do like the Montessori. Of course, I'm prepared. Of course, the Montessori materials are there and they're beautiful. And there is absolutely no point in trying to shove mathematics down my lovely 7-year-old's throat
Yeah.
if his body is dysregulated, if his emotions are out of control, and if he just needs something different that day.
Yes. Yes. If I could give the gift of that to all homeschooling moms, which is, I love that. Be prepared, have some idea, but just watch the child just show up, be open to the Lord and open to the child, and be willing to follow them. And that is doing a really good job. It's just watching them and giving them whatever they need. And it's so powerful. And it felt risky to me in the beginning, but now, so many years in, I just watch how attuned I am with the children and that they are thriving and growing. And it doesn't look like a K through 12. They're not hitting the buckets at the same time as the kids in school, but it's fine. They're still getting there, but they're very calm along the way. And I really enjoy it.
And we get to trust our children. There are certain things that Montessori teachers look out for, and one is, concentration, and the other one is order. And if the concentration and the order is there, and we get to build that up slowly, then that child has the ability to learn a term's worth of material in 2 days.
Yeah,
if you're interested.
Okay. I did not know we were going to turn this episode into this, but I do want to say this because it's so important. And I've mentioned this, right? A very like melancholic 11-and-a-half-year-old oldest child is my oldest. And for a while, I just thought she's never going to do school. She's never going to do it because I have a real hands off. I don't force them if they don't want to do it. And I would just make such a strong case for things. And she would just be like, I don't want to do it. And for a long time, I would watch her and just be like, she loved reading and doing puzzles. But it's scary to watch your child read and do puzzles for like 2 years. You're like, what? And she did a couple other things, but that was her great interest, which a job does not make, my friends. Okay, you cannot just read and do puzzles. But I trusted her, and I trusted her to know herself. And then slowly, because I gave her that space, I explained to her what unschooling was and that I was not going to force her. And I always tell them, when you're into something, I'll resource you. And just this last year, she finally started coming to me and saying, I'm kind of interested in this. I want to learn more about this. Could we get something around this? And then inside my heart just like bursts like sunshine, like, yeah, And so, hang in there, because sometimes on the outside it doesn't look like it's working, but I really had so much faith in her. And I think that is the thing that is making it really blossom right now.
That's such an awesome story. Well done, you.
Yeah. Well, it's hard though. I mean, it feels risky, but not really, only because I read so much about it. And I read so much about it that it made me feel like, no, it shakes out. And they're pretty spectacular humans on the flip side. And I just trust that. I trust that on a deep level. Okay. So you get married. What was your experience like having that first kiddo or being home? I mean, you had this kind of like, it sounds like a high powered job, but then a slower, more contemplative job, but still around people, curriculum, working, doing things. What was it like to transition being home?
So, I really enjoyed it, really enjoyed being home with my son. And then I continued to work in this beautiful Montessori school for 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Was working with a really experienced Montessori guide, so was learning a lot. So, my brain had an outlet there.
Yeah.
And then I shifted more into religious education work for that school.
Okay.
So that meant that I definitely had enough to get my head around. And then my second child came along, and then what often happens after two kids come along, is that the petrol to get to the school and the childcare fees were
Yeah.
just eating up the salary.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this is great. I love my job. I really genuinely love it. And it's just kind of not making sense anymore. I'm
Yeah.
almost paying money to be
Yeah.
away from my
I hear
kids.
that all the time. I hear that all the time. Like it's either exactly the same or even a little more to do all of it when it's all said and done. And that feels confusing. Like, why are we doing this?
And really frustrating. And it's not that I wanted to be a lawyer. It's not that I wanted, because you see, that's also frustrating and confusing, because with lawyers, there's very limited options. And, I didn't want to work a 50-hour week.
Right.
And also, I just saw so many female lawyers officially working part-time, getting a part-time salary, and ending up working full-time hours with kids at
Yeah.
home that they were dying to be with. So I
Yeah.
felt they got the worst of all worlds. So it's
Yeah.
not that I wanted that either.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I bet that's exactly how that plays out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's just so frustrating. I get so angry about that. So let me move on.
Okay.
And it was at that moment that I somehow, and I still don't know how, I got on this email list of this parenting coach.
Okay.
And I got onto this like call with her. And she said, well, I'm starting a group coaching program. Do you want to join? And I was like, that sounds really good. So without really knowing anything about coaching, I ended up in this year-long parenting coaching program with this amazing coach. And then my life was literally transformed that year.
Yeah, man, that's just so consistently the punchline. We're not making it up, you guys. Like, I went from being not having any idea what coaching was. And again, like, you can be very well read, you can have read lots of books and not understand coaching or mindset coaching. And I went from discovering that to literally deciding that's what I would do probably with the rest of my life within less than a month. I mean, it was that powerful when I was exposed to that. I was like, wow, this is really it. So it was a parenting.
So Sterling, put it that way, by the end of that year of coaching myself, I had launched a website and was basically launching my coaching stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, like that so many people who get coached become coaches. And I think somebody asked me about the life coach school and they said, is it kind of an MLM? It seems like when you go get coaching, you end up wanting to be a coach. And I said, well, the program in no way says you should become a coach. It just literally changes you so much that you can't help but want to turn around and do that for 100 more people, because you know that the average person has not heard almost any of those tools. And so I think if you have a desire to work or to be entrepreneurial or to do something from home, it just clicks in so quickly that it makes sense that you could help change people's lives and have a job that's pretty flexible. Okay, so within the year, you had your website up.
Yeah, so this is the funny thing. So the Lord is amazing, right? The Lord comes in, and you hear so often that people are like, you just need to keep momentum in things. Keep momentum in things, and the Lord will like change your path. And it's so true. So I started off talking about religious education of children, of godly play, of Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and Montessori stuff, the education of young children at home. This is what my website was all about. This is what I was talking about. And that's good. And I still talk about that. And yet the Lord showed me so clearly that what mums need is to be so careful that we don't put things around, like don't put more millstones around our neck.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful, the Montessori method or the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd method or any other beautiful method becomes something that us mums beat ourselves over the head with. We're not a good enough mum because we're not doing this. We're not a good enough mum because we don't have a beautiful Montessori shelf that's ordered and colorful and beautiful. And, those Instagram posts should be banned, in my opinion. Yeah. So I realized, what is the number one thing that moves the dial in like a normal mum's life? And that is the coaching. It's the mindset work first. Yes, the Montessori is great. Yes, like the spiritual preparation of the child is amazing. It is amazing. And I think we do the coaching work first. And then with freedom and with joy, without any blame, without any shame, without any comparison, then we pick up whatever unschooling, Montessori, Catechesis of the Good Shepherd curriculum we want to pick up.
Yeah, I'm so freedom. Much more free and creative, yes, with my children now because I manage my mind. And so it's almost like I took the requirement to do anything off the table. I resourced myself and I calmed myself down. And now I find when I get a pocket of time, not all the time, you guys, not all the time, but I'll be kind of fun and spontaneous and say, let's do a picnic or let's do one of those messy Montessori things. But I'm happy to do it with them. And I just go in allowing it to be whatever it's going to be with no expectations. And it really was that the coaching came first. And then I showed up like the mom I had in my mind before.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what kind of coaching practice did you launch? Was it around parenting or was it around this, like helping moms?
So I started by talking about Montessori, and now I still talk about Montessori a little bit, but this is the truth, Sterling. We are human. Our children are humans. I think Maria Montessori had amazing insight into the human condition. So the things that she writes about the 3 to 6 year olds in her care are also applied to us. Yeah. She writes a lot about uninterrupted concentration span. How can we support our children to concentrate in an uninterrupted way?
Yeah.
And this is the deal, Sterling. How often do I have an uninterrupted concentration?
Yeah, with 3 little kids, it's hard.
And it's not just the 3 little kids, it's the doorbell and it's the phone and it's my own thoughts spiraling, making me jump up from the middle of an activity to do something else.
Yes.
I think there are riches in the Montessori method that helps us as adults because we're human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you help empower a mom to even get an uninterrupted, let's say, hour? I feel like for a lot of them, an uninterrupted hour, not at the end of the day when the kids are sleeping. And maybe that is what we start with. Maybe we do start with the time that we do control. How do you help them to begin to put that back into their life?
Sure. And I often need to take my own advice on this. I slip up so quickly as well.
This is all of us. All of us teach things and then we're like, maybe I should do more of the things that I teach. That's everybody. But what do you tell them?
Okay, so for me, just personally me, I need to get rid of my perfectionism and I need to be really clear with my intention. So even a simple activity like sweeping the floor with my 4-year-old child. Let's just take that as an example. Great, I'm sweeping the floor with my 4-year-old child, but what's my intention? Is my intention to get the floor clean? Right. Or is my intention to teach my 4-year-old child how to sweep the floor?
Right.
Or is my intention to be thorough with getting my 4-year-old child to get into the routine of sweeping the floor every day? So is it habit growing that I'm doing? What's my intention?
That's really interesting, breaking out those last two, the skill of doing it versus the daily habit of dropping into a chore activity. Oh, I love that. I love breaking that out. I'm just thinking about
because this is what I do. So this is the trap that I fall into. I start off by having fun and joy with my child.
Yeah.
I'm teaching them how to sweep the floor. And, there's this beautiful, like, we have a beautiful, like, child's, like, broom. And we, first of all, we, like, draw a big, lovely chalk circle on the floor. And then we, like, push all the, like, dirt into the circle. And then we get the little dustpan and, like, brush. And then we sit down and we, like, push it all in. And it's great. And once the floor's swept, we can get little bits of paper so that we can practice and redo the activity. Right. So I start off with that. It's beautiful. I'm connected with my child. It's all great. And then my perfectionism comes in and I'm like, yeah, but we missed that spot behind the fridge. I'm just going to quickly go and I'm going to do that spot behind the fridge. Okay. Sometimes I get away with it. And sometimes I end up breaking connection with my child. And then I realize that I've put a load of laundry in and I've done something else. And that inadvertently, I've ended up making my gorgeous 4-year-old child feel that her sweeping is not good enough.
Yeah.
Which was not my intention.
Yeah.
So I've interrupted my own concentration and I've broken my connection with my child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've not followed through in my intention. If my intention was to teach my child how to sweep the floor, my child comes away from that experience never wanting to sweep the floor again.
Right. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's so wise. Just really knowing the intention of the activity. And there's no right or wrong answer. You could pick any of the three, but just picking it and then sticking with it, like not allowing your brain to kind of, hey, let's tack the other one on. Just no, we're staying here. This was our intention. That's so good.
Exactly.
That's so good. Okay, so one of the things I love about your program is that it's 9 months. You're the only one I know that does this, and I love it because I think coaches, they either go to a coaching program or something and people they tell them how to coach. And most of it is coach every week, coach every other week, do a 3-month program. And maybe it's just like the cool rebelliousness of Europeans because they do things differently there. But I really love that you create a 9-month program that almost matches kind of like the school calendar and allows you to have a slower summer with your family. So tell me about how you decided that. Was it a big decision? Was it hard? Did you have drama about it? And maybe what your thoughts are about it now.
Okay, so my primary focus is the transformation that my clients achieve. Mm-hmm. What can I do to support my clients get the best possible transformation? Now, my clients are amazing. They're like so intelligent. They're so capable. They've read all the books. And it's not actually information from books or podcasts that give us the transformation. Yeah. It is the practical application, and the practical application knowing we belong to the Lord, knowing we are loved by the Lord, and knowing that we are forgiven by the Lord, so that whenever like mistakes happen or whenever things don't go as we want them to, it's not a big deal. We pause, we go deeply into the present moment, we receive the Lord's blessing, and we move on cleanly. Yeah. So it's not the information that will get people their results. It is the practice. It's the support from the Lord. It's the support from people's peers. And it is the continual like application and gentle, holy bringing together of the theory and our real lives. Yeah. And it's also a bit of humor, Sterling. Like things do not go how we want them to do very frequently, and we get to laugh about it.
Yeah. And I think that's what's fun about doing it in a group, because it's so often, especially for a high achieving woman in her home, to just like beat herself up and think, oh, I'm not doing it right. But then when we're in a group and we all can kind of laugh about how we tried to do something and it didn't quite work, or the baby didn't nap or got sick or something, and we had to pivot, it does bring a lightness to it. It doesn't all feel so heavy. And that's what I really love about group coaching.
The thing is, Sterling, also goals take a while to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, like my ladies, they know the Lord. They have had deep prayer moments, like my washing my hair in the shower. They've had those deep moments. They actually know like what the Lord's calling them to and what they want to create and build in life. It's the skills and the practice of those skills to get them there that takes the time. Like, how do we communicate our dreams with the people around us, with our colleagues, with our co-workers, with like our family, in a way that they can hear us and they can get on board with us? How can we let go of our pride a little bit to welcome in the support, like the childcare support, the cleaning support, even the admin support or the tech support that we might need to build our dream or goal. And it's not a 6-week quick fix.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. No, that's the other thing I really love about 9 months is it's a lovely breathing room amount of time. And it also accounts for the unexpected because we know we don't get to the age that we are and think that everything's going to be lovely for 9 months. We will encounter some sort of unexpected adversity, sometimes even expected adversity, like moving or getting pregnant, something we're even happy about, but it does change our life. And I love walking with my clients through one of those moments to say, okay, this has come up. Let's still anchor to the tools, anchor to the Lord, and get through this, even though we didn't know this is what we were going to be going through together.
And you see, this is the deal, Sterling. Those moments are never comfortable. And
Yeah.
I run away from those moments just as much as the next person. And yet I'm seeing more and more that those moments reveal our patterns to us. I have patterns in my life that are not serving me. And those patterns come up in lots of different areas of my life. So when one of those moments happens in one area of my life, yes, I could deal with the symptom. Yes, I could put out the fire. And yet, whenever I've got a great coach on my side, whenever I've got like teammates that I know love me and will support me, I can take a deep breath and I can just take the lid off the tin a little bit and see what's underneath. Like, what's the pattern here? Where else in my life is this pattern achieving? Let's just dig a bit down into this and see if we can kind of look at the root cause a little bit as well as just the symptom. So
yeah,
we get to do that work.
Okay, so if somebody wants to work with you, you work with women who, how would we describe how she's feeling at home? And like, how would she know, like, okay, I think this 9-month program sounds really great for me?
Well, I think that if someone has had the equivalent of my washing hair in the shower moments,
yes, I love that.
Feel a big call from the Lord, and are thinking, okay, this is great. I know who I am. I know what I want to do, and I'm not quite sure. Like, I think I know how it's going to look. I think I know what to do, but I'm not quite sure how to get there.
Yeah.
Then I say, come and chat with me. We get to dig even deeper into your identity in the Lord. We get to clarify even more your vision and your dream with the Lord. And we get to pray in a support team around you and get you equipped with amazing coaching tools to help you stay calm when the fires break out, when the breakdowns happen, because they always happen at some point, sooner or later. And there are great coaching tools out there that will help you stay calm and even a little bit joyful and will just help you bring that goal to reality, that will help you not back away. Because this is what happens to me, Sterling. Can I just share? This is what happens to me. And I'm learning to go pull through it. I have this massive goal and I'm getting there and I can see my progress starting. And then some emotion hits, like a child gets sick or someone in my life, just is not quite happy about something. And I just want to please everyone a little bit. I want to make sure everyone is like happy and calm on the surface. And then I pull back from my goals. So like yesterday, I needed to bring my son to the doctor. We have the most amazing babysitter. She is like Catholic and full of the Holy Spirit. The kids love her. I had set her up with all the food she needed, all the activities. Like the other two kids were sorted.
Yeah.
We go to leave the house, I leave the house with my 7-year-old. We're on the way to the doctor. So it's a non-negotiable. I have to bring him. And my 1-year-old just has a little bit of a cry because she sees her mum leaving, The babysitter has got this. I say a quick goodbye, kiss everyone, know they're in safe hands, leave the house, right? Bring my son to the doctor. I come back and everyone has been totally fine. The baby did not cry for that long. I see it all the time. The thing is, Sterling, if I was going to leave the house to do like some exercise or something for me, I would not have left. I would have stayed there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do need to stay in the house. Sometimes, of course, I put my children first. Of course.
Yeah.
And sometimes I act out of fear instead of freedom. Sometimes I stay in the house out of fear. And sometimes I don't trust the beautiful, wonderful, capable babysitters I have in my life, the support I have in my life.
Yeah. And for someone, by the way, husbands too, like you see that and you think, oh, I don't want to make his life harder. He works so hard already. And so we just, nope, I'll stay, I'll do it, I'll take her, right? Something like that. And so I think that shows up in that place too. I love that. That is I think such a story that resonates with so many women, this tension of feeling called to greatness, especially maybe something that not all of your friends are doing, called to something kind of in addition to being home with the kids, whether it's in the home or out of the home, and then just constantly reconciling that with how we want to show up as moms, and then just the day-to-day stuff that comes up.
Exactly, Sterling. And it's the coaching tools that get you through that, that allow you to push through. Because, Sterling, like, this is what happens if I act out of fear. If I stay in the house, if I pull back, then I end up full of resentment.
Yeah.
I end up not achieving my goal. And then it's my husband and my family that end up bearing a huge cost for that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
where my husband and I got to. And he was so sweet. And you guys know we have challenges, my husband and I. But I remember this moment very clearly when he said, I just see that you were made to do this work and that you are very unhappy, not like pouty and ruining everyone's life, but that you are so unhappy like a caged bird when you don't do this. And so we really just decided as a family that I was a better wife and I was a better mom when I was answering this other call that God had placed on my heart, in addition, to taking care of the kids. That honoring that really did bring us the most peace and the most net positive for our family that there was. So it's nice to just see that and go, oh, maybe that is the better choice, even though it feels difficult to stand up for it in the moment.
And how does it feel no longer being a caged bird, Sterling?
Yeah, that's how I feel now. I never think about quitting. I mean, the Lord might place that on my heart, and I trust myself that I will hear that and know it if it comes. But I don't spend any energy now wondering if I should be doing this or not. And because I don't leak out, I call it leaking out, like leak out all of that energy, I have better energy when I'm working and better energy to do that really cool mom stuff with the kids that I wanted to do. And so that is how it ends up being a net win, to really be present at work, close the door and leave it, and then go be present with your kids.
And your kids see an alive mum.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's exactly how they would describe it. And they still complain. Listen, kids complain about everything. They would complain if you didn't work, right? But overall, I see them really cheer me on and be happy and impressed about what I'm doing, and they like it. And it's exactly that. I like showing them what a woman who listens to the Lord looks like.
And there are amazing spiritual direction tools. There's amazing counseling tools, and yet it's the coaching tools that are just so super practical that have helped me just kind of get through that barrier, get through that boundary.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are feeling this way, if you're feeling either called to leave your job, or you have and you're at home and you're kind of not sure what you're doing with yourself and you're feeling this tension, and you really want to walk with someone for 9 months and learn these tools so that you can sound like we do. And listen, it's not perfect, right? But we have so much more like peace and conviction and rest. We have rest in the work. And I think that is really what you teach women how to do. And so I will link up in the show notes all the ways to find Mrs. Kate Cavanagh. Is there
Thank you
any
so much.
last thing you want to leave them with?
Very simply, I'm on domesticarc.com because for me, everything's around the family, and our families are arcs. We get to
I
fill
love
our
that.
arcs with light, with the Holy Spirit, and with love, and with purpose and significance. We don't get to shy away from what the Lord has placed on our heart.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a holy form of jealousy. Probably not. It's probably a different word. But I remember when I saw your website address, I was like, oh, that's so good. I wish I had that. Like, it's so clever and it's so good and I love it. And it speaks so clearly to just who we are really as Catholic moms, that we do really, really value that so significantly, the arc of the family. And that is where our heart lies. And then for some of us, the way that we express that the most fully is also by answering another call within that. So cool. Domesticarc.com. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to talk about all the things today.
Thank you so much, Sterling.
All right, you guys, thank you for listening and have a blessed day.